We're joined by our defensive coordinator, Randy Bates. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, afternoon, I guess, maybe. Pretty close.
If we're ready, we'll open it up for questions for Coach Bates.
Randy, Pat mentioned yesterday about Notre Dame's offensive line and how it's one of the more experienced lines he's ever seen. I mean, what kind of challenges do their running game present?
Well, they're big. They're really big up front and very experienced. I believe all of them are in double digits as far as number of starts. In fact, I think 3 of the 4 started against us, maybe in 18. So very experienced, athletic, large bodies. And they've worked together for a long time. So a great challenge up front.
Randy, whenever we asked Pat about the defense in week 1 and 2 and 3, he'd always say, "Well, let's wait until the end of the season." Now that we're 6 games in, I guess, up until this point, how would you assess how the defense has played, relative to the expectations, perhaps, that you and the players have set for it?
Well, we're disappointed with the last 3 games. Obviously, it's been games where we were aggressive. We've made a lot of great plays, and then you have a bust here or there, or a young guy makes a mistake, and it costs you a big play, or guys that are less experienced, maybe in certain positions, hurt us a little bit at times. But that happens in the game. We're probably far less of a starting defense than we were maybe 3 months ago with bodies, and some of those guys are still learning on the job. And the critical thing is to learn from your mistakes and not let it happen again. And, thus far this week, the kids have been really working hard on making that happen.
Randy, Pat said yesterday there were a couple of those pop plays that you were able to get, but the ones that got free, how difficult is that play to recognize, and how much do you expect Notre Dame to try those type of plays?
Well, I would think anybody will do it until we stop it. Let's put it frankly. We stopped it, and then different guys in there in different situations, and we didn't, and was disappointing. But it's something you got to work on. With the aggressiveness of the defense, guys are one-on-one many times, and you have to be disciplined, and that is a critical factor in our defense.
Randy, when you're hit by some of those splash plays, especially in the secondary, is it breakdowns, mental breakdowns, or is it physical breakdowns, or what exactly is happening there?
It's mental. Pretty black and white. Now, when you say that, some of it is great coaching on offense. They put them in situations that are challenging for the kids, and that's where. Being a disciplined player, you have to, sometimes it's really lack of experience too.
Randy, I guess, how would you mentioned the last 3 weeks being disappointing. How would you describe the last 3 Sundays when you guys have gone back and looked at the film and talked with your players about this? What have those Sundays been like for the last 3 weeks now?
Well, these kids are not, they're professional at what they do. And they come in and they're really disappointed in, we've had kids that have played in winning efforts that didn't play bad. In fact, the majority did. And it's just a play here or there. And, it's the difference in a game when you play at this level at times. And they're certainly disappointed.
Randy, you mentioned their size. How about Ian Book? What's the challenge in trying to defend a guy with that type of ability and experience?
Well, you're talking about a guy with, 30 starts or more, I would guess. He started against us in 18, athletic, smart with the ball, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. What's he got? 2 interceptions, 1 or 2 interceptions, hardly any. They don't turn the ball over. They keep control of the ball, and he does a great job of managing the offense.
Randy, with some injuries, obviously guys like Dayon Hayes and a few other guys got a chance to play. I mean, what are you seeing from guys that maybe weren't expected to play but have had to be thrown in there?
Oh, they've done a great job. I mean, the problem with a kid like that is they're inconsistent. You know, they make a sack and then go the wrong way on the next play. It's part of the game at that age, you know. And but kids are working hard. They're great athletes, and you know, a guy like Dayon's going to be a challenge for anybody to block. He already is. You know, it's just a matter of them getting seasoned and getting out there, and you know, hopefully not going the wrong way too much, but you know, getting it right when he does have the opportunity.
And how important is guys like Paris Ford and DeMar Hamlin and your two bookend defensive ends, the seniors, they're experienced guys, and keeping everybody on point, on the same page, and still encouraged?
Well, all those guys, especially Pat and DeMar, do a great job being captains of, you know, patting the guys on the back when they make a mistake. And when they do a great job, you know, they get on their hat and they teach, and, you know, that's why they were elected captains. And I think they do a tremendous job of keeping the guys motivated. And, you know, when you make a bad play, there's nobody that feels worse than the guy who did it. And, you know, you sure can't, you can't get down on them. You got to keep them going because it's a long season and there's still a lot of plays to be made.
Randy, their scheme is pretty different than what I'd call kind of the typical ACC kind of offense. They play like two tight ends. They run the ball a lot more than a lot of the teams you see. How does that fit with what you guys like to do differently than maybe what a lot of the other teams you see play?
Well, I would say they're very similar to Boston College, truthfully, although Boston College hadn't run it as much before our game, but wanted to. And so I would say they're a very similar offense.
Randy, I remember before the season you said that the motto for the defense was the adapt, improvise, overcome. And there have been, you know, we talked about the injuries. When you have so many of these starters, though, like Keyshawn, Wendell, obviously Damari before the season, you have Twyman leave before the year. Does it get to a point where they're just building so much that it's difficult to mentally overcome that as a unit? Or, you know, what do you tell your guys when these injuries just start to really mount?
Oh, you know, it really is. The kids know each other and they work together well. The problem that you have is that they aren't consistently working together for a long period of time. And I think as you get along, you get more comfortable with the guy that you are beside. And when that's a different person every week, it's a little bit of a challenge. But you know, kids are working really hard on the adjustments of being with different guys, and you know, we'll get it straight.
As the coordinator, Randy, do you have to, and you mentioned the seniors helping out a lot, do you have to help keep their spirits up too?
That's what I get paid to do.
How do you do that?
You know, every week's a little different. You know, it just kind of depends on what the situation was and why. You know, if you take out two plays in the game, there's arguably a chance to win, if not win it. So, you know, you got to look at the positives along with the negatives, and you got to teach from the negatives, and you got to build on the positives. There's no magic. If I had the magic, I probably would be selling a lot of books. A lot of people make it up, but you know, you're also dealing with 17 to 20-year-old kids, and each one of them is a little bit different. So every challenge, every kid, and every situation, no magic pill, truthfully.
What are some of the positives that you've taken from these 6 games? You know, obviously, you know, rough last 3, but a good first 3, I guess. What are some of those that you've taken away, you know, really halfway through the season now?
Well, if you watch the tape, I'm sure most of you have. I hope you all have. It's not that the kids aren't playing hard, because they're flying around and they're really playing hard. It's just those few plays we got to eliminate. But they aren't playing any less aggressive and less will to win than it was the first week. So I would say that's a tremendous positive.
Any final questions? All good. Well, Coach, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys, have a great week.
Coach, thank And with that, we'll open it up for questions for Coach Beatty.
Chris, what can you say about the play of Jordan Addison, through 6 games now, 5.5, I guess, after he left the 1 game early, just as a freshman stepping in, becoming your go-to target?
He's done a great job. I think he does a great job of transferring what he learns in the classroom to what he does on the field. Really humble kid, obviously very talented. He's done a great job of adapting to what we're trying to do and what we're asking from him, and he's been exceptional.
You've been around receivers for a bit. I mean, as a freshman, have you seen a kid get to his level that soon, that quickly into a system?
He's been about as good as I've been around. I've had a lot of really good ones, and he's right up there with them. Like I said, I think he does a great job of he's not a rep guy. You can tell him one time and he gets it right, right away. So he's been about as good as I've dealt with as a true freshman.
When you were recruiting him, Chris, did you see him as a guy who could step in and not only start as a freshman, but excel as a freshman?
I've been recruiting him for a couple of years, so I was recruiting him at another institution, prior to getting here. But last year when, I got here and saw how things eventually shaked out as far as our depth chart, I did think he had a chance to come in and play early. And to be honest, I did think he had a chance to start at the position that he's starting at. So that's really not necessarily a surprise to me. But, obviously no one's expecting a player to come in and be among the leaders in the nation as a true freshman in catches and all those kind of things. So that's obviously surpassed what my expectations were.
Beyond his athletic ability, what is it, about him mentally and emotionally and everything else that makes him a good player?
I mean, he's very sudden as a player. He's got great quickness, great change of direction. He's got soft hands. So those things obviously, are rare. He can make people miss, but he can run by you. So he's got great speed, but he's got a great initial burst. So those things separate him from most. But I think his biggest thing is he's so humble and down to earth. Like none of this has really phased him one way or the other. He hasn't changed since, practice 1 of spring ball to 2 years ago, 3 years ago when I started recruiting him. He's been the same kid the whole time. So anytime you tell him something or whatever you teach him, he transfers that to the field and stays as humble and grounded as you can be.
How young was he when you were recruiting him at the other institution?
He was a sophomore. It was before his sophomore year.
Did you offer him at that point?
Yes, we were the first to offer him, yes.
Chris, Pat told us yesterday about wanting to get others involved. Other receivers involved? What do you tell the other guys in the room about maybe stepping up their game?
I don't think there's been a problem with those other guys in the room. The ball goes where it goes, and that's kind of, like I know people think that it's, you're targeting one guy all the time or whatever, and that's not the case. I mean, if you look at it, I think we've got 3 guys in the top 15 or something like that in the conference and receptions, and Taysir's missed a couple games. So at the end of the day, I think the ball goes where the defense, dictates it's going and where the quarterback throws it. So the biggest thing is making sure we're available, and that we make the plays when we have an opportunity to make them. We've had games, we're averaging almost 300 yards a game passing, I believe, and it should be more than that. I think, we've left some out there, which is disappointing, and we got to do better at that. But, I think all those guys, we've been pretty even. I think if you look at it, we're one of the few teams in the conference, much less the country, that has 4 guys that have 200 yards receiving or more. So, that's balance, I think.
Chris, about Jordan Moore, just his athleticism has always surprised me with how explosive he is, but he's not just using it to get past people. He's finding different ways to beat people with it in his routes. How much have you seen that as coach is different from what you've seen out of normal receivers, even when you see the rare talent that is as explosive as he is in such a young age?
How is he different from the most freshmen?
Yeah, most freshmen, even like some you might have seen even on other programs that have his level of athleticism.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think his ability to process is far superior than most people. I've had a lot of really good ones. I had Tavon Austin at West Virginia, who was super talented. He was not as far along mentally as Jordan is. Tavon did other things that were tremendous, but he didn't necessarily process defenses and things like that like Jordan does. Like he can see, he still makes some mistakes here and there, but he can sit back and see the safeties, rock one way or another and understand how the coverage is rotating. He understands how to sit in the zone when, some people run through it. So those things give him a chance to be special where other people, it takes some time to be able to process those things on the run. His ability to transfer things from the classroom to the field is as good as anybody I've been around.
Chris, how have your guys been able to adapt, working with Joey and Davis more so than Kenny of late? I mean, how's that connection been with the new quarterbacks?
It's been good. At the end of the day, I always tell our guys, it's our job to help them look good. And wherever the ball is, we've got to make it. Wherever the play to be made is, we've got to make it. We've got to get a comfort level with Joey, now, and Kenny whenever he's, playing, or Davis whenever he's playing. Whoever's back there, we've got to give them a level of comfort that they know we're going to be where we're supposed to be on every play. And I think we're getting there. It's always a work in process and progress. But I think they've done a nice job of getting some comfort level with him and him having comfort level with us, because it's a two-way street. He's got to feel comfortable that we're going to be where we need to be too.
You guys are near the top of the country in drop passes. Is that something where it's just physical work, go get on the jugs machine, or is there a mental side of that too that you deal with these guys with?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of let you guys deal with that more than me, because back when I was playing, people would say, "Oh, it touched your hands, that's a drop." Well, Pro Football Focus doesn't sit back and tell us how many drops we got. We know how many drops we have or don't have. If a ball touches our hands, that doesn't mean it's a drop. So I don't harp on that stuff because it doesn't do any good. I think no one catches more balls than we do, and no one works harder than we are to try to make sure we eliminate those things. We've had a couple, you throw 40, 50 balls. We also were number one in the country in pass attempts too. And we're number one in the country. Kenny was number one in the country in passing yards. So all those things, if you pass more, you're going to drop some. That happens. So at the end of the day, I don't really stress it. I'll leave that up to, other people too. Like I said, we catch 1 million balls and we'll continue to catch 1 million balls. That's what we do. And they'll make those plays. Like I said, I have faith in those guys and it's amazing. You catch 400 something yards and people will say, well, but you dropped this or dropped that, so those things happen. I watched a game Saturday night. I ain't gonna say what team. They got some good receivers and they dropped like 3-4 in a row. And, it is what it is.
Any final questions about Notre Dame for Coach Beatty?
DJ, is he attracting more attention the last couple games since the NC State game?
I don't think so. I think it's a little bit he was moved into the spot where Jordan was, with Jordan going off. And so that took a little bit. He got some of the balls that Jordan has been getting this last week. DJ got those that game. So, a lot of it and everything is the ball goes where the defense kind of dictates. And, we've played a lot of close coverage teams, which end up changing where the ball goes a little bit. Notre Dame is a little bit different. They play a lot more open coverage, so that'll dictate the ball going outside a little more as opposed, to some of the things that we've seen in the past. So, I think he's done a nice job. He just hadn't gotten the ball thrown his way that much in the last game or so.
You mentioned, Chris, Notre Dame's defense and the way they play. They only have one interception, but it seems like they've had a lot of hands-on balls. What's stuck out when you've been watching film of them?
Yeah, they're really well coached. They do a nice job of keeping things in front of them, so there's not a lot of deep balls or things thrown over their head. They do a nice job with their scheme as well as, helping that they'll roll some things to the boundary to take away, your best receiver if he's into the boundary. They do some really nice things, and they've got some really good players. You know, obviously they're Notre Dame, so they're going to get, you know, a lot of talent, but they do a nice job of developing them as well. You know, their safeties are really good. You know, they do a nice job fitting the runs and staying and not letting you behind them in the pass game. And the corners do a nice job as well. Number 28 is really good to the field. He makes a ton of plays. You know, doesn't, like you said, doesn't have a ton of interceptions, but they bat down a lot of balls. And they're, you know, making people make contested catches.
Any final? All good. All right, Coach, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate you.
There's Mr. Moraga. Thanks for joining us, Danny. Once he's unmuted, we can there we go. Open up for questions for number 80.
Appreciate it.
And Danny, how does it feel? You're sort of carrying the banner for the tight ends now, even though you've only been here for half a year.
It feels good, you know. Lucas went down, so you know the next man was up was me. So you know, just coming in here and working hard every day, and just leading an example.
How's your adjustment been to Pittsburgh? I mean, I know you're from California. I mean, what was it like, especially with the pandemic, kind of getting here and trying to get settled in and also learning a new offense and all that?
It wasn't that bad, you know. Just when I got here, I had to just quarantine. Just getting used to my teammates, my coaches, and you know, kind of when I was back home, Coach Salem was kind of just going over the offense with me, so I kind of had a clue of what the offense was, and I felt like I adapted pretty quick. Haven't really got the feel of full of Pittsburgh because the Corona, so I couldn't tell you that, but other than that, it's been good so far.
Dan, obviously you've had to adapt to a new quarterback. What did Joey Yellen show you guys last week?
I felt like Joey went in there, was very confident, looked comfortable, made some good reads, and got everyone the ball.
What what have you seen from Notre Dame on film? And, you know, obviously they have a pretty good defense and you're going to have to be able to, you know, do some blocking and some catching this week.
Yes, sir. Well, we haven't really faced like these two ends like that. They're kind of bigger ends. And they're like 260, 270, both ends. But, you know, just doing our job, doing my assignments that Coach Webb has for us, and just going hard, you know, going hard every play, and then just doing our job.
Dan, how do you embrace blocking? Is that something that you grew to like, just know it's part of the game? How do you view yourself as a blocker?
You know, I kind of wasn't feeling it at first, you know, back when I was a freshman. You know, I wasn't really a tight end in high school, so it kind of was new to me. But I kind of embraced the role. You know, when you're a tight end, you got to block. Basically, it's an extra lineman. But I kind of just embraced it and just getting better every day and every week.
And growing up in Southern California, what was kind of your perception of Notre Dame as a football program?
I just always thought they were just big time. You know, kind of was a dream school of mine too. But you know, I'm here now and excited to play against them.
Is that kind of one of the pinch yourself moments? You go from playing in junior college to 6 months later, you're going to be playing one of the top college football programs, all time ranked number 3 in the nation.
Yeah, you know, it's another opportunity for us. You know, and we lost 3 in a row. You know, we just got to get back on our groove and punch it in and get a win.
Daniel, how do you see yourself and your teammates bouncing back from this losing streak? What's your mental makeup in the locker room right now?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
I said, what's the mental makeup in the locker room at this point after losing three games among your teammates?
I felt like it's just going harder every day. Today we had Coach Doozy was just honest about going harder, and I felt like this Tuesday practice was definitely different than last Tuesday practice, just the speed wise and, the scout team going a little harder, and just coming to work every day.
Dan, I know you have class. John, you want the last question?
Yeah, I know you guys are separated by a couple of years, but did you know Joey at all coming out of high school and or familiar with him at all?
Not really. I think I heard of him, but no, not really.
RJ, I'm sorry. Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead. One more.
Hey,
Go ahead, Kelly.
save the best for last, I guess. This is going to be your first game at Heinz Field with some fans and the band and some people in the stadium. Talk to us about that. Is that going to make a difference? Can you feed off that?
It's definitely exciting that we get to have fans. I know I got my people coming out to come watch me. But it's the same mindset that we have. Just going in there, whoever we're playing, just trying to get a win and just go hard and finish.
Daniel, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all.
Our final guest, Deslin Alexander, has joined us. Deslin, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll open up to questions for number 5.
Deslin, what stands out about Notre Dame's offensive line and that rushing attack they have?
Notre Dame's a really good team. They pride themselves on their line play. They got, their starters have a lot of experience. They played a lot of ball, and, it shows on film.
Deslin, what does it say about a quarterback when he's got 2 more touchdown runs than passes? And what's the dual challenge there with Book?
Well, we obviously know he's good with his feet. He can extend plays. So, just trying to keep him in a pocket, and give him pressure that way is the best thing that we're focusing on.
Deslin, you taking some snaps inside in the
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. You broke up.
I said you were taking some snaps inside in the Miami game. How do you like moving inside? Is it tougher with all that traffic, and do you have to gain any weight to get in there?
No. I'm just willing to service our team any way we need it. Coach played me there, and I was ready for it.
Deslin, with Notre Dame, they're kind of like it's like a more of a power team, I guess, than what you see typically in the ACC. A lot more 2 tight ends. They run the ball a lot more. Well, what does that do to your game plan? How does that impact the way you guys prepare?
Well, leading up to game, we know that, they're strong inside. So, we're trying to fine-tune our technique that way. We're going to run technique a little bit better, be ready to transition when it's passed.
What's it been like for you as you kind of moving around and seeing some of these really young guys getting opportunity? I was watching one play. You were inside and you had DeAndre Jules next to you and Dayon Hayes on the other end, a couple guys that are just real young and inexperienced. What's it been like playing with those guys and getting them some playing time?
Those guys are hungry, man. They're willing to learn. When their opportunity comes, they don't shy away from it, man. So it's like I'm really excited for them. On both sides, 2 young guys, who put the work in and ready to show that on Saturdays.
Deslin, Coach. Go ahead, John.
Thanks. You were a guy, obviously, last year who stepped in when Rashad went down. There have been a lot of, or a handful of injuries on this defense now through 6 weeks. How do you feel your teammates have, that whole next man up kind of deal? How do you think you guys as a defense has kind of, embody that or embrace that?
Yeah, I think we chat around that, in practice, like, we hold everybody to the same standard. As when we go through drills, through team periods. So we're ready for that. The young guys, they don't get treated any different. They train the same way, they prepare the same way. So when their time comes, they're ready.
Deslin, Coach Bates was telling us, you're just 1 or 2 plays away from being where you want to be. How difficult is that as a player to know you're that close, and how do you clean up those couple of plays?
Well, it all comes down to detail. little details that, as far as like from a D line or our alignments, how we come off the ball, all those play in, at the end of the game, those details get magnified. So we try to, in practice, cross our T's, dot our I's, in everything we do to put us in position to win.
I'll stay consistent. I asked Daniel, I'll ask you the same thing. First game at Heinz Field with some fans, some of your students and everything in the stands are going to make a difference. Are you going to feed off that?
It'd be exciting, to finally get the college football like atmosphere at home. But, at the end of the day, it's still football, man on man. So all that extra stuff is awesome. We're happy to have fans again, but we just focus on trying to get on there.
Desmond, do you have any family or friends coming up from Florida for the game?
No. Well, I got a chance to see some of my family down South Florida last weekend, but no, not this week.
Desmond, are you getting most of your snaps inside at tackle or at end, or are you splitting time at practice?
Right now, I'm playing end. If coach needs me, and I think he address that when the time comes.
Isn't there, their offensive line is a bunch of guys that are, they were highly recruited coming out of high school. They're experienced college players. A lot of them are good pro prospects. How much do you personally look forward to that kind of challenge?
Knowing they got a lot of high-rated guys, that turns almost a switch on in your head. But we look at every opponent the same. We don't look down on an opponent, and we try not to look up on an opponent. But you're definitely ready to play, especially against guys who are highly rated.
Anything final? All good. Desmond, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Good job as always.
Thank you.
Have a good one, and we'll get back at it tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll send out the video shortly. Have a great rest of your day.
Hey, RJ, any idea who we get coming tomorrow?
Yeah.
To be determined.
Yeah.
So it's a day-to-day basis.
He's my favorite player, to be determined.
You're not looking past lunch. Huh?
He's consistent.
He's very consistent.
Can't look past Tuesday.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.